As you take your seats, good to see a great turnout again for another Frankston Mornington Peninsula breakfast. We do have an AFI award-winning actor who will be here today, which is terrific. Samuel Johnson, who I just see coming into the room. Great to have him here. Just spent a full year riding around Australia on a unicycle. Also, I'd like to acknowledge those who made this happen, our collaborative partners here, the Frankston City Council, of course, the Business Network, Monash University, the Mornington Peninsula Shire Council, the Mornington Peninsula Regional Tourism, and, of course, the St Kilda Footy Club. Moving right along, we'd also, of course, like to thank the sponsors who make this morning happen, the Chisholm Institute, Eastlink, the Department of State Development, Business and Innovation, and of course the MP News, our media partner. Now we do have a hashtag. The hashtag is FMP Brekkie. So the more tweets, the more social media buzz we can create, the better. And of course share this morning with everybody who wasn't able to join us. Just by way of introduction, I'm Seb Costello. I'm here as part of the Nine Network's proud association with Frankston City Council, my third business breakfast as I mentioned before, and they are a great time.
4 years ago, my sister was diagnosed with breast cancer. She was 33, the mother of two beaut young boys. It had spread to her liver, lungs, spine, pelvis and knee, and she was told that she had 6 to 12 months to live. It was aggressive. I did what you do in those situations and rushed to be by her side. I remember sitting in full light on her kitchen bench, watching her getting bogged down in the helplessness of it all, understandably. So I try to focus on what we can do about it. I ask her, what do you want your legacy to be? I thought that the idea of a legacy would be pleasing for her to think about. It would help provide a meaning or a purpose to what was essentially a senseless situation. So much was out of our hands by this point, and I figured it unhelpful to talk of the helplessness of it all, so I focused on what we could still change or affect. What do you want your legacy to be? I watched my sister absorb the question. She breathes in. I'll give you this for free right now. My sister Connie breathes in with more gravitas than the Queen of fucking England. I'll tell you, I swear. But with her inward breath, I watched her galvanise. I could see she wasn't beaten yet. Her eyes became clearer as she focused hard on the footprint that she wanted to leave. She looked at me, her eyes full of strength and daring, and said, "We've got to do something." And that's when I knew she wanted her death to mean something. And we've got to do something meant we've got to do everything we can, and by that I mean you, brother. It wasn't enough for her to fight silently for her kids. No, my sister Connie wanted to be bigger than that. Connie's kids needed to know that when the fit hit the shan, their mum fought for more than one family. She fought for every family. Connie never knew her mum, and she would make goddamn sure that her kids would be left with more than she was. She said, "We've got to stop just one other family from going through this pain." How? I ask. 10 minutes later, she had it nailed. She was clear on her legacy, and it was simple. Remind every young mum in the land to check their boobs. So how would we do that? Face to face. And how would we score these young mums' attention? We needed a hook, something that hadn't been done before. My sister decided that I was to hop on my unicycle and go to every town, every city, no matter what it took. We would try and remind every single young mum in the land to be breast aware. We would raise a whole $1 million for breast cancer research. And while we were at it, we would break the world record for longest distance travelled on a unicycle. I couldn't say no. She didn't even ask. She was dying, and this is what she wanted her legacy to be. Who says no to a dying wish? And who has dying wishes that are so absurd and lofty? I suppose my sister does. The funny thing is, I'm not much into the notion of legacy. If I had kids, I might feel very differently, sure, but if you had a semi-automatic directed at my temple right now and forced me to articulate what I wanted my legacy to be, I'd hope for nothing more than the tiny pocket full of people close to me to agree amongst themselves at my remembrance, well, Sammy tried, he sure did try, that kid. That would be it. Then they'd move on with their lives and promptly forget about me. The idea of legacy is too dependent on the notion of permanence, which I have little faith in because, as far as I can tell, very little lasts in this world. The very nature of time doesn't allow for permanence. Isn't it obvious? Sure, Shakespeare or Mozart fly in the face of such an assertion, and somehow the Bible slipped through too, but there's always exceptions, and there's nothing about me or anyone else I've ever met that says anything greater than blip as far as I'm concerned. Screw legacy and all its shitty little implications. The very word only serves to reinforce my sense of smallness. Give me my sister's cancer and I can die so she can look after her kids. How do you like that for a legacy? After I get over my little legacy hang-up, I realise that it's quite a good concept. It's got the elements needed for it to work. There's a comic hook in the unicycle. It's unique and hasn't been done before on this scale. It's got tragedy in that Connie's a young mum who won't get to see her kids grow up, with the brother who will bury his sister no matter how far he pedals. As a narrative and from a marketing perspective, it stacks up, and I know it. It's an epic promise to a dying sister. Problem is, I'm not much of a fan of promises either. If there weren't so many empty promises floating about the place, maybe I wouldn't have such issue. Promises rely on the premise that the future can somehow be controlled. You might be able to influence the future, sure, but you're a fool in my book if you think you can determine it. And promises are determinisms, aren't they? I can't promise to take you to Disneyland because I might die before I get the chance or lose the airfares in a Ponzi scheme. I can't promise to love you till death do us part because you might end up interfering with our children and I might be left with no choice but to hate you. The other niggle is this whole advocacy thing. I hate talking about my sister Connie's illness. Through this cancer, through the cancer in her womb at 22, and right through the cancer that she had in her left leg at the age of 11, I've always told her that I want to talk to my sister when I see her, not some cancer patient. I'm pretty open about avoiding her cancer wherever possible. In fact, I've pretty much embargoed the whole cancer chats. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to chart her test results or follow her platelet counts. I don't want to hear about how losing her nipples makes her feel. It's too upsetting because I can't change it. I can be there, sure, but I can't help her get better. I can't give her her breasts back or time with her children. To take me through the details is torture because it only serves to amplify my sense of futility and I end up distressed. Just because there's an elephant sitting in the room doesn't mean you have to offer it a cup of tea and scones. So, I'm the key player in my sister's lofty legacy, and I don't think much of legacies. I've made an epic promise to my dying sister, and I don't even believe in promises, and I'm meant to become an advocate for something that I hate talking about. That's not all either. There was a lot of other stuff about my sister's dream that made me uncomfortable. I didn't want to be away during such a critical time for the family. On top of this, my instincts said that we should be fighting this amongst ourselves. It felt personal, not public. I didn't want to be off playing the hero while the family suffered. What if she died while I was in the middle of nowhere and I couldn't get back to her in time? Couldn't we just do what normal families do and fight it together without tabs on it? My belly wasn't stirring. My heart did not beat for the cause. I didn't want to help other young mums living with breast cancer. I wanted to help Connie, her husband Mike, and her kids. And did Connie fully understand the implications of going public? How far was Connie prepared to go? Would she be willingly photographed topless after her double mastectomy, for example, if it, say, meant a donation from a glossy? There's no middle ground. You either maintain privacy or you go all the way. And I was worried that she didn't understand that. Eventually, after 12 months of planning the project together, I decided to throw all of my misgivings at her. "Sam, this is bigger than us," she said. And she was right, of course. She said, "Besides, we've said all we have to say." She was right, again. Without quite realising it at the time, I was looking for any excuse not to do it, because deep down I knew damn well what it would take to get myself road ready. A lot would have to change. I'd have to get real. I suffer from a range of mental health and addiction issues. Connie didn't just want to provide meaning for herself. She didn't just want her kids to be proud of the kind of woman she is. She didn't just want to remind every mum in the land to check their boobs. She didn't just want to raise $1 million for breast cancer research. She wanted her brother to be okay. She wanted her brother to find some calm. So I take away all of my negativity, all of my defences. I close my escape hatches. I construct a place where success is the only endpoint. I commit. I create a whole web of promises that I have to keep. I turn a promise to my sister into an open declaration that I can't escape from if I try. If you're going to make a promise, make it an almighty one. And after years of fighting to be clean, I had found the best excuse in the world not to fail. I know that there's no way it's all going to come together on emotion though, and I'm very emotionally driven. I need to be smart, mind over heart on this one. So I take the emotion out of it and I try and break it down objectively. 1, remind every young mum in the land to be breast aware. This is a great primary aim, I think, because it's an aspirational goal with no ceiling. One generally skim reads the paper, if it's reached at all. One often does other things while the TV and the radio are on. TV, print and radio are extremely effective, but they don't necessarily guarantee that next level engagement that we were looking for. Connie and I were convinced that sharing our story face to face, person to person, remained the most effective way to remind young mums to be breast aware. We would go old school, from town to town, with our pink soapbox and scream our story out to anyone who would listen. Any media would be icing on top. 2, raise $1 million for the Garvan Institute of Medical Research. I thought my sister was bonkers when she proposed this target. Having done my share of fundraising in the past, I had a fairly full understanding of how hard it is to raise money for charity. And when I looked at comparable events, I saw totals that were nowhere near $1 million. One advantage would be that we would have an entire year to reach the target, giving us time to build momentum. We would need to nail our community engagements, get loads of media, earn word of mouth, and maintain a strong presence on social media to be a chance of hitting that target. I liked it because it was lofty. Number 3, break the world record for longest distance travelled on a unicycle. In a way, this was the easiest part because all it entailed was pedalling and not giving up. I'm a stubborn mule, and when I was a kid, I thought my bike could fly, so in a way, I was the perfect candidate. We would sell it as impossible, of course, but it would be built to be achieved. Taking a year allowed for mishap, injury, or illness. I didn't need the pressure of not having any wriggle room. Also, I wasn't attempting this as an athlete. I was, first and foremost, an advocate. Our ethos rests on community engagement, face to face. We would not just visit a town, take their money and shoot through. We would stay long enough to engage at multiple community events with time to say thanks at the end. If we were going to be about breast awareness, then we might as well stay long enough to beat the drum. Now I knew what we were. It was time to take it back to market. My approach was simple. I used my verbal will. I made massive lists and cold called my way through them. Socially, I spoke to anyone who would listen and forged partnerships with strangers from nothing. I went in small, Rarely did I ask directly for help. I would usually ask just if they knew someone who could help, taking the pressure of saying no off them. And I applied the well-held theory of going to the best. I'm not an expert philanthropist, an expert researcher, an expert event planner, or even an expert unicyclist. Go to the best and go in small. Great advice is free if it is truly sought. And it came together somehow. I unicycled nearly 16,000 kilometres in 364 days, becoming the world's most determined unicyclist. We did over 450 community events and fundraisers, over 1,700 media calls, over 50 school visits, and about 1 billion sausage sizzles. Bit by bit, we accumulated support across the country to the point where we can now reach 5 million people a week on social. And we've raised about $45,000 shy of $2 million to date for whatever that's worth. But it didn't stop when I broke the record or raised the million. It didn't stop when I got off my unicycle, and it doesn't stop when my sister dies. It stops, of course, when there's a cure and when mums stop dying from breast cancer. I'm a small part of a big movement, and I'm proud to be a pink flag bearer to the point where I could be asked to speak with you this morning. 20 minutes isn't enough to start to talk about what I learnt on the road. And I have no pearls for you, for my ideas are far more pedestrian than my actions. Just because my actions have been deemed meaningful doesn't mean that I have meaningful ideas. I have no answers. I don't even understand the question most of the time. So, in lieu of good ideas and in consideration of the fact that they're probably not clean enough to share this morning, but at least with some imagination, I'm going to attempt a mashup of Tim Minchin and Oscar Wilde, two of my favourite ideas people, for they can articulate what I learnt out there on the road much better than I ever will be able to. So here's some Tim Minchin, Oscar Wilde, and the odd bit of copper thrown in by the world's most pretentious unicyclist. This is what I learnt. Manage your feelings well. Don't waste more time than you have to on negative emotions like jealousy or regret or self-loathing. Try to achieve your dreams and you will fail. The mere realising of them renders them not dreams. You don't have to have a dream. By the time you get to it and stare into the abyss of your meaningless achievement, you'll be almost dead, so it won't matter. I advocate passionate dedication to the pursuit of short-term goals. You won't see the shiny thing in the corner of your eye if you're looking too far ahead. Don't seek happiness. Happiness is like an orgasm. If you think about it too much, it goes away. Keep busy and aim to make someone else happy, and you might find you get some of the side effect. We didn't evolve to be constantly content. Understanding that you can't truly take credit for your successes, nor truly blame others for their failures, will humble you and make you more compassionate. Empathy is intuitive, but also something you can work on intellectually. Be hard on your opinions. Take them out on the veranda and hit them with a cricket bat. Define yourself by what you love. Be pro stuff, not just anti stuff. Don't rush. You don't need to know what to do with the rest of your life. You'll soon be dead. Life will sometimes seem long and tough, and God, it's tiring, and you'll be sometimes happy and sometimes sad, and then you'll be old, and then you'll be dead. You have only a few years in which to live truly, perfectly, and fully. Time wars against your lilies and your roses. You will become sallow, hollow-cheeked, and dull-eyed. When your youth fades, so too will your beauty, and you will suddenly discover there are no triumphs left for you. There is only one sensible thing to do with this empty existence, and that is fill it. Life is best filled by learning as much as you can, taking pride in whatever you're doing, having compassion, sharing ideas, and being enthusiastic. Live. Live the wonderful life that is in you. Let nothing be lost upon you. Be always searching for new sensations. Be afraid of nothing. The world belongs to you for a season. Be yourself. Everyone else is taken. Thank you for your time.
Terrific. We got this one up and going.
Are we doing some questions?
Yeah, I think we will.